Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday. We are live. It's the 9th of October, and we have got an amazing show for you. We've got people coming in from all over the world. I see we've got Lynn coming in from Arpin, telling us all about the Bay Area's truck pull for Move for Hunger. Kudos to everybody there. Imelda's backstage, as is Ben Barder, who are going to be talking to us about an amazing show we've got today on what type of GM professional are you. We've got so many people in the house. I see we've got Delphine's in the house. We've got Rebecca live from Florida. Our hearts go out to everybody in Florida with Hurricane Milton today. So we are thinking of you all and praying that everybody is safe and well. It's an important topic we've got today. We're going to be talking about what type of global mobility professional are you? Now, we've spent a lot of time on the shows talking about different types of assignees, different types of programs, some technical stuff, some legal stuff, some immigration stuff, obviously a lot of technology stuff. But maybe we haven't spent as much time as we could on us. What sort of global mobility professional are we? And what are the traits? And we are so excited. We have backstage a professor of international HR and global mobility, Professor Benjamin Barder, who's going to be talking through a methodology that he has developed. And I know a lot of you have taken this test, and we'll give out the link later on if anybody else wants to take the test, which analyzes your personality within a global mobility context. It is absolutely fascinating. You are going to love the show today. But you know how it works. If you join in the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us who you are, where you are, share the news, share the love. We always want to know who is out in the audience. I can see loads and loads of you coming in today, which is fantastic. Now, of course, we've also got CPE credits. If you want to get your CPE credits, then courtesy of our good friends at ERC, courtesy of Anapant and Mark and Deb and all the other, Tanya and all the other great people at ERC, we've got those codes for you there, your GMS or CRP codes. We've also got HRCI codes and SHRM codes, which are provided to us courtesy of Rocket Mortgage. So lots of, good stuff there. If you want those codes, I'll leave them up for a moment, but just screenshot it or get your camera out or jot down the relevant number and it's there. Now, what about next week? So this week, we're talking about what type of global mobility professional you are. Next week, we've got the first of a two-part series about global mobility at undoubtedly one of the world's leading technology companies. Our very special guests next week are from Microsoft. How cool is that? And we're going to do a two-part series on global mobility at Microsoft. It will be absolutely fascinating. So that's next week. As I said, global mobility at Microsoft, episode 1. We are, of course, live on YouTube. We are live on LinkedIn, but also we are on Spotify. So if you want to just listen to an audio version, don't forget to tune into our channel on Spotify. So what's been happening in the last 7 days in global mobility? Well, let's have a look at all the breaking news. So there we have it, all the latest breaking news in the wonderful world of global mobility. Congratulations to everyone who's been promoted, to everyone who's got a new job. And if you're looking, well, there's lots of jobs out there. And indeed, congratulations to all our wonderful new change makers. There's lots of jobs out there at the moment. I know a lot of people are looking, but there are lots of jobs. By the way, if you got something you want to celebrate, you've had a promotion, you've got a new job, something else has happened, you want to celebrate it, let us know and we'll make sure we cover you in our breaking news segment. And equally, if you're looking to hire somebody, you've got a role that you need filling and you want to post details of that job, again, let us know and we'll make sure we'll put your job opening into our list on the breaking news. So we're going to move on now. We're going to be moving on, as ever, to talk about immigration. And we're taking immigration with a slightly different angle this week. We don't have Julia Onslow-Cole. She's actually mid-air, even as we speak, flying somewhere. She's always flying somewhere. But don't worry, we are super delighted. We've got Raj Naik from Fragaman, who's going to give us this week's immigration update. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome to our stage Raj Naik from Fragaman. Hey, Raj, great to have you back on the show. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Brian. It's great to be here.
So tell us a bit about what you're going to be talking about today. I know you're
right. Yeah, absolutely, Brian. And thank you very much for having me. It's great to be back. And I know there's some big shoes to fill with Julia being away. But yeah, something a little different today, I thought, compared to what we've been talking about in the immigration space recently. I know there's been a real focus on geopolitical events, remote working, of course, and digitalization, technological advances, and the like. But what I wanted to do today was look at something, as I said, a little bit different, and that is green skills and sustainable talent with a bit of an immigration focus in that as well.
Wow, green skills and sustainability and immigration. What more can anybody want?
Absolutely. Well, I know green skills and talk of reducing carbon footprints and so forth is top of mind for a lot of companies, corporates, as well as national governments as well. But I think the first thing to really think about is, what are green skills and how do we define them? And I think you can look at it in one of two ways. Obviously, we can look at individuals who are working in roles designed to support sustainable and resource-efficient operations. I think that's particularly relevant for those companies, and I know a lot of the listeners here will work for companies that are looking to reduce their carbon footprints, and we obviously need staff and talent to help us with that. But then you can also look specifically at climate change and and tackling climate change. And if you look at green skills in that arena, you could consider that these are the skills, or green skills are the skills needed to adapt products, services, and processes as we look to meet those brand new environmental requirements and regulations as well. So it goes beyond just your solar panel and wind farm engineers and so forth. It obviously can include people in finance, mobility, HR, legal, who have an intricate understanding of the new green legislations, as well as the regulations that help companies meet their relevant targets and so forth. Now, why I thought this might be quite interesting today is obviously we've been talking a lot on Beneva about talent and the fight for talent and talent acquisition and so forth. But there's a real shortage in green skills across the globe, and that is consistent. And actually, that shortage is only increasing. Now, we've seen the EU pledge to substantially increase the region's battery production, for example, in regards to electrical vehicle manufacture. The UK as well has, the new Labour government has said that they want to increase the number of heat pumps that are utilised by its citizens. So, of course, that's going to require new engineers and specialists as well. Now, because of these targets and because of this new wave of green initiatives, I think governments are reacting in a number of ways. We obviously have a number of standard immigration pathways that facilitate the movement of individuals across the world, and particularly within the green space. And we need to ensure, and those governments need to ensure, that those pathways remain attractive and open to green skill talent. Governments also need to engage with present talent as well. And from an immigration perspective, I think that means making markets accessible. adapting current work permit regimes as well to ensure that those individuals who are needed within the green space are able to enter easily and are freed of the restrictions that come with labour market testing and so forth. Now, I think that's where we are now. But what are we likely to see in the future with regards to green skills and talent? And I think we will start to see the introduction of more green skills specific visas and permits. Some countries will likely look to establish specific categories and pathways. And also, I think we know that there are quotas and restrictions in certain immigration spaces, and we'll likely see some of those introduced, with governments taking a specific focus at specific roles that benefit the green skills sector.
Are some countries being more aggressive in trying to get in the necessary skills than others?
So skills reviews are consistent, and I think there's a current review going on in the UK with regards to the shortage occupation list. Within Asia Pacific region, Australia takes a very, very close look at the roles that are deemed to be in short supply, and we have the new compass system obviously in Singapore as well. So we are seeing specific roles that are within the green sector, so focused on climate change, reducing carbon footprints and so forth, that are benefiting from some of these reductions, and we'll likely see that increase as time goes by. So I think in addition to things like subsidies and grants that we'll likely see come in, and companies will obviously benefit from that, I think it's important that we as practitioners think about how we can future-proof ourselves and our businesses, particularly when it comes to this space. And one of the things that we're doing at Fragment is conducting an internal audit of the existing skills that we have and experience capabilities that we have in order to achieve the best allocation of our talent. How can we utilize the existing talent that we have to meet these skill shortages and so forth? And actually also seek out talent recruitment opportunities. And this can be global in nature as well, right? How do we move people appropriately and quickly across the world? And finally, I think it's very important, and I'd encourage all of your listeners to engage with governments and stakeholders to ensure that the voice of the private sector, particularly when it comes to skill shortages, and we're talking about the green space specifically today, but that those voices are heard. We obviously need to make sure that the immigration systems, as they develop and as they move forward and are at front of mind for a lot of these new governments that we're seeing come into place, that these immigration pathways are fit for purpose. It's very, very important.
Okay, so thank you so much for that, Raj. Absolutely fascinating. So we haven't really looked at it from a green perspective. We're going to be moving on shortly to talk about what sort of global mobility professional you are. But before we do, we've got our change maker for the week. And our change maker this week has come all the way from Brisbane, Australia. So everybody, we want to say thank you to Raj, and we want to welcome to our stage Nicole Galliano from CSIRO. So please, everybody, like you've never done it before, hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. Hey, Nicole, thank you so much for being on the show and for being our change maker today.
Hi, Brian. No worries. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, Nicole, whereabouts are you?
So I'm based in Brisbane, Australia, where it is starting to get extremely warm and we are starting to get our summer storms.
Wow. Okay. As we go into winter, of course, you're going into,
that's right.
into summer. And you work for CSIRO. And for the people who don't know what CSIRO is, can you just tell us a bit about them?
Yeah. So CSIRO is Australia's national research agency. We employ a lot of researchers into our organisation and do some pretty amazing stuff. Fun fact, CSIRO invented Wi-Fi.
What?
So
wait. You can't just throw that one out there. You guys invented what? I owe my life to you. I mean, you guys are just amazing. That's
yeah,
awesome.
It is pretty amazing.
Wow, I never knew that. Okay, well, there's a fun fact right there. You guys invented Wi-Fi. Okay, so tell me a bit of, I'm just blown away, but tell me a bit about CSIRO.
So the organization's been around for a very long time. I'm still quite new. I've only been here for 18 months, so still learning. I think it's one of those organizations, like many, where it takes a number of years to fully get your head around what's going on. But very interesting organization, that's for sure.
Wow. Okay. And tell us about it from a mobility perspective. I mean, what sort of moves do you do? How many people do you move? Locations? Just tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so the majority of our program is inbound. We hire a lot of researchers from around the world into Australia to support the continual development of our organisation. Our outbound population is relatively small, but facilitates quite a lot of career development research assignments.
Okay. And mobility in Australia, I think you're about the second or maybe third person we've had on the show from Australia. But one question I've always wanted to ask is, what's different about global mobility in Australia, if anything?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of differences. So programs in Australia are usually quite different to those in the rest of the world. They're generally a little bit smaller, less head offices in Australia, which naturally means that some things are a little bit different, and we're normally just the host country or the home country, not necessarily the head country for a lot of programs. But I think one uniqueness is, we spend a lot of time doing domestic mobility as well, because our country is so large that, even moving from Brisbane to Perth, it's almost like moving country due to the distance and the complexity involved. And it's very different over there. And because of where we are, we do have quite a big competition for talent. So attracting the talent into Australia and then retaining the talent as well.
Okay. And how did you get into mobility? What's your background? What's the Nicelle story?
So I've been in mobility for a bit over 18 years. I started, like many, in general HR, but quickly realized I had an interest in compliance. And was fortunate enough to be working for an organisation who was an Italian organisation based in Brisbane, and they wanted to start sending people from Brisbane to Italy and vice versa. And I was provided an opportunity to start a mobility program for them, and I haven't looked back.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being our change maker of the week. If anybody else wants to be a change maker, please do reach out to us so we can onboard you as a change maker. Actually, one very, very last question. We're running out of time, Nicelle, but one very last question I do want to ask you, of course, is tell us about your charity. I mean, because with all our change makers, they help us by giving us input and their wisdom, but we also like to help a charity of their choosing. So tell us about your charity.
Yeah, so my charity is RSPCA, and they're a community-based charity that provides animal care and protection across Australia. I'm a big animal lover. I've got 4 rescue animals, 2 dogs and 2 cats. I'd take them all if I could, but I really like to give back to those animals that are less fortunate.
Okay, well, that's just amazing. So I know it's late for you, so thank you so much, Nicelle, for being on our show today. We're going to now move on. Obviously, Nicelle, very highly regarded woman leader in global mobility. In fact, we're going to be talking about the top 100 global mobility women leaders. And to talk about that, we're going to bring on our very own Beth Nielsen. So everybody, as we say goodbye to Nicelle and we welcome Beth to the stage, please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's say farewell to Nicelle and welcome to Beth Nielsen.
Thanks, Brian.
So, hi, good to see you, Beth, and thank you to Nicelle. Now, Lots of comments coming in on the comments that Nicole was making. Just a moment of honesty and transparency. We actually pre-recorded that segment earlier today because I think Richard Majewski pointed out it was actually 2 a.m. Nicelle's time. So we did record it earlier today. But we are going to do a special episode on Australia, I think, at some point in the future, because I think there are all sorts of special issues surrounding global mobility down under. So Beth, what are you going to talk to us about today?
Well, first of all, I thought that section was brilliant, and I couldn't even tell it was recorded. So that worked really well, Brian. We'll have to get more of our friends from different parts of the world on at times that are good for them. So what I wanted to talk about was, first of all, please can everyone get voting? We have had such an amazing response to our Global Mobility Top 100 Women Leaders. Please make sure you share it with all your friends, all your colleagues. You do not have to be in Global Mobility to nominate or to vote. But obviously we love it when there is a story that goes along with why you are voting for that person as a leader. But it doesn't have to be in relation it could be in relation to anything that they're doing in leadership. So please do share. Also, I am absolutely thrilled to share that we have got our time slot confirmed for FEM. So we will be on the Wednesday, the 30th of October. So that's going to be you and me, Brian, and David Carmichael from CGI talking at 10:20 in the morning. So for those of you who...
I've got that session in the morning, and then I've got the show. Of course, we will be live as ever in the afternoon.
Exactly. We'll let you off at lunchtime, Brian. But if you want to catch Brian, please come in along in the morning. If you're debating whether to come along for the Tuesday or the Wednesday, I hope this pushes you towards coming on the Wednesday. It's going to be a great session. Talking about great sessions, we've also obviously got ERC coming up on the 22nd of October. If you have yet to register to come and see the Benevo team or to come to our exclusive breakfast, then Tally will be sharing the links, and it will be great to see you there. The Benevo team is really excited about hosting that. But that is all for me.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Beth. Always great to have you on the show. We're now going to be talking about this really exciting subject. I'm just so fascinated about it. What type of global mobility professional are you? And backstage, we got the amazing Professor Benjamin Barder from Newcastle University. He's going to be talking to us about the technology that the tool that he and Professor Michael Dickman have developed. But also we have our very own guinea pig, Imelda Keane, who's undertaken the test and will be sharing her and talking about her results and her viewpoints. But also many of you in the audience have shared your thoughts on this, and we're interested to hear everybody's views. So without further ado, we're going to bring to the stage Benjamin and Imelda. We're going to say goodbye to Beth, so everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, and please hit the applause button. Hi, so good to see you both. I was just so excited because, I mean, I've done this test. I know you've done this test, Imelda, and it's fascinating. But when we get there, we get into that, we're going to go into it in detail, and hopefully lots of you in the audience have done it too. If in the audience you haven't done it, we will post the link at the end of the show so you can do it. We're not going to post it now because we don't want to lose our audience going off and doing the test whilst we're live on air. But Benjamin, let's start with you. Who are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Brian. So my name is Ben. I'm wearing two hats. So one is Professor of International HRM at Newcastle University, and one is co-founder of MasteringGM, which is an endeavor of Michael Dickman and myself. And
I think Mike was in the audience, so shout out to Mike.
In the audience, he's probably gonna ping me a message that we prefer the term early adopter, not guinea pig, Mel. But I hope you you don't feel like that. No. So yeah, what I'm doing work in the GM industry for many years, Michael as well, and over the years we've established like different approaches. One is the WAVE framework, which we're going to be talking about later, and this WAVE framework and the WAVE Trait Navigator is helping you to determine what kind of GM type you are. And many of you have done it, so thank you so much. And I can't wait to discuss the results.
Okay, and Imelda, tell us a bit about yourself, because you've been both corporate and service provider, haven't you? So tell us a bit about yourself and what you've done in mobility.
So hi, thanks for having me. So, I mean, most of the people will know I've been in mobility for over 20 years now. So yes, Brian, have done quite a lot and have seen quite a lot. And I have been in-house for many, many years. I've also gone external, pivoted at different points. At the moment, external consulting. So that's interesting in itself. And yeah, I mean, that's it. I'm a guinea pig. What more can I tell you?
An early adopters, I think, what we've been told to say, but I'm going to stick with guinea pig. I'm sorry, call me old-fashioned, but anyway. But just going back, because it is fascinating, because we look at mobility, and very rarely do we actually look at it from an academic perspective. We look at it in terms of, what are the immigration issues or the tax issues or the technology issues, or what sort of policy do we want? Maybe we'll stretch a little bit into, cultural assessment with our assignees. But very rarely do we actually ask the question, who am I? Who actually are we? And what sort of skills, what sort of traits actually help us? So tell us a bit about, how you as an academic, Ben, not as a dyed-in-the-wool mobility professional, but as an academic, how you approach global mobility.
So first and foremost, I would say what differentiates the academic approach is structure. So when we created the WAVE framework, what we're doing is we're looking into GM and say, what actually is it? Because if you ask most people outside GM, they will give you answers like, moving, maybe visa, immigration, but there's so many things to GM, and it's hard to pinpoint it. So the way we approached this, basically, we created a framework on 2 dimensions. We differentiate internal, everything inside global mobility, and external, everything outside global mobility. Now, bear in mind, this could be within the same organization. So HR would technically be outside GM, but external to global mobility. So you got these 2 dimensions. And then you've got the strategy orientation, and that is processes and people. And if you span it up, you get a beautiful 2x2 matrix.
Let me just pull that. Hang on. Without further ado, we have it as if by magic. So what we've got are a classic management consultant Boston matrix, or whatever you want to call it, where we've got the 2 dimensions. On the one hand, we've got strategy orientation, and there we're looking at strategy orientation regarding processes and people. And the other hand, the other axis, the x-axis, we've got focus scope, which is internal and external. And then that's given us 4 boxes. So tell us a bit about this.
So yeah, the boxes basically came first in this workforce, adaptability, value, and engagement, which are the.
And that's where we get WAVE from. So the term WAVE.
Exactly. Now, as academics, we always look for patterns. And even before we had this, like working with many GM professionals across the board, different industries over years, well, we always had to feel like there is like sometimes are alike and others are different. So we're kind of looking at like what are these different? How can we make it salient in a way? And what we've been doing is, so we created this framework. We've been working with that for a while, and then we created an assessment that is on each dimension, as the words in between showed. We said, well, basically each dimension is a approach from spectrum from one end to the other, or anything in between. Now, you bear in mind that none of that is better or worse. We're not looking for the one particular type that's best, but we're looking for how you approach these different dimensions and what's more natural to you, what's like coming natural in your personal trait as a global mobility professional. So we developed this assessment. You can do the assessment and you get your personalized results, and that tells you where you are on this assessment.
We'll get into those results in a moment. As Michael said, and in general, we as academics in global mobility look at the field holistically, long-term, contextual holistically, in order to advance individual GM professionals, their careers, and to improve the GM team work and performance. I mean, that's great comment. Let me just sort of understand it. We're going to go into this, into those 4 boxes, the W, the A, the V, and the E in a moment. But Imelda, you came across this as a concept. And what was your thinking when you first heard of this concept of doing this and having a, if you like, an assessment on yourself?
So I think the first time I came across it, I was intrigued as to how you could define somebody's global mobility trait. And when I took some time to actually, before I actually took the assessment and Ben and I spoke, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, would this actually even make sense to me? Would it resonate? How could you define, I was asking myself all these questions, like I think I was trying to make up the assessment myself. When I actually spoke to Ben and he explained it, I mean, you asked that question at the beginning, Brian. It's really it was really interesting for me to find out who I am and what I do in the global mobility professional environment. And is it who I think, will I come out who I think I am?
Yeah, I mean, what I found, I've done any number of these tests like Myers-Briggs tests and those sorts of personality tests, and I think as HR professionals, they're things that we know about. But this is unique. This is unique to global mobility. And as I did the test, it takes about, 10 minutes to do, depending on how quickly you answer the questions, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more, depending on how much you think about each question or how much you go with instinct as you answer them. And some of the questions are actually quite hard because you think yes and no to each question. The questions are basically, you're on a scale of how much do you agree with a particular statement, and they're all, the aim is to pull out these various traits and see where you are. And then at the end of it, what I found really nice is you get, almost immediately by response, you get something like a 20-page report that sets out the background and a bit about who you are on these tests. So maybe let's just go back to this slide and ask Ben. So let's just talk about these 4 areas. So the first area is workforce. So that's really how you are internally focused on presumably it's your own people, it's your own team. And the question really is working out, are you more of a harmonizer or an innovator? So tell us, what is a harmonizer or an innovator in the 2 ends of that particular spectrum?
Very, very good question. So basically, and again, it's not that the one is better or the other. I'm not like one not saying that. No, a harmonizer is more looking in terms of harmonizing the workforce approaches, in terms of doing things that are established, focusing on policies around the people and everything that we know that are working and improving them. Versus an innovator is more on the let's put it like the innovation front. New things in terms of how you can get your workforce to do a better performance, or anything in between. Just like on the other dimensions, engagement is probably the dimension that resonates with most people in where they can put themselves without doing the test, like balance or networker. So we're looking at the outside dimension here. So balancer means like you're more investing time and energy in nurturing the network you already have. You spend time with people that are already in your network and you have a relationship with. Networker dimension means like it's more natural to go out and then add new people to your network and just focus your energy on that. And it's a function of time. You can do both, but only to a certain extent. It's a trade-off. So if you focus on nurturing your network, you will automatically have less time in growing your network and vice versa. And so it works on the other dimensions as well. And we developed this questionnaire to calibrate you on these 4 dimensions and then give you a type. And I read, like with one eye in the chat, an interesting comment. I did this test, but can you pull it up, Brian, please?
The comment from Bindu. And in fact, Bindu, if you'd like to join us, Tally will send you the link. And if you'd like to join us, we might actually be able to get you on stage as well to share your thoughts on this as you've done the test. But Bindu said, I did this test, but I had to answer neutral for many questions because I was a bit of one and a bit of the other, like I'm an organizer, but an innovator. My gut feeling is we're probably all there. I mean, you know, we're all probably somewhere in the middle on a lot of these things.
Okay.
Tell us about the, if you like, the nuance of it for people who aren't sort of all one direction or all the other.
No, exactly. It all goes down to the details. You will get a letter, but you will also get a number. And there's quite a spread. So you can be a harmonizer on the higher end, you can be a harmonizer at the lower end, or anything in between. And this applies for all dimensions. Where it's getting interesting, that is, like, the ladders to get you started with that is a really good way to start the conversation and take it from there. And to kind of get from the subconsciously known to the consciously known. So you learn about yourself, you make it more explicit. It gets really interesting when you work with your team. So more people in your team do it, you learn about that. But with you individually, we would be working with you if you're interested in learning more, looking into these exact results. Where does it come from? Which particular questions, sub-questions made you get in the neutral dimension? And again, I mean, if this is how you feel, this is natural to you, and if you're looking for the balance, then that's absolutely all right. Okay,
well, let's just take it. So we've got those 4 boxes, and after that we get 16 personality types. Imelda, tell us about yourself and what your sort of results were when you did the test.
So I came out as an IFCN, so innovator, flexer, creator, networker.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Imelda. This might answer your question. Create is an American digital
Alexa.
So the first time on the show we've had, and I'm not going to say the word, otherwise if I say the word, my one will go off too. But we've had that particular virtual assistant on the show. So anyway,
I did say I was going to bring the entertainment, didn't I, Ben?
Absolutely. Having Wi-Fi.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, whoever needs Wi-Fi, we're going to have a word with them out with this. Say, look what you've done to us. So anyway, Mel, so tell us a bit more about your own reaction to that.
So my biggest reaction, if I'm honest, was the networker, and I think that's because I am naturally an introvert, and networking is not something that it's just not a comfortable place for me. But I do it, and I do it a lot.
I'm not, but you're an introvert.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not. I mean, you know, right? We had that discussion, and
yeah.
But it did actually, in that one specific area, although I was surprised, it did actually resonate, because I have been doing a lot of networking of recent, and actually it almost gave me a push to keep going in that area. So that was the really good thing about that side of it. The IFC, I wasn't talking about. Did we get feedback? The IFC, and I wasn't surprised about, because I think, you know, I do push the boundaries on, you know, new practices and new tech. I mean, if anybody sees my posts on LinkedIn, you know, I talk a lot about geostrategy and, you know, new ways of doing things. So that didn't surprise me so much. I'm not going to say the F word, because that will trigger the in the corner. That has not surprised me either, because I also, you know, have been using robust methodologies within these strategies to be more agile, but okay, to be sustainable, but to also be agile, and as I said, adapting new policies and practices. And with the creator, I guess I wasn't so surprised. I think I used to be a sustainer, but I think the I and the F have maybe pushed some of the creator. And I know this was me really, really going deeply into it, but this is where I found the beauty. Actually, did it resonate? How did it resonate? Do I see it in my day-to-day? What's my practice like? So I really enjoyed it. And yes, IFCN, I think I totally agree with.
Okay, so I mean, I did it myself. I came out slightly similar. I think it called me a trailblazing networker, which I loved. But actually, I looked at it, and what's so clever about these things is all the descriptions are actually nice. You know, you look at all these descriptions, and they all come out saying that, you know, there's something positive about you, and equally they say there's something negative about you too, which is the reality. So, give you one example. If you come out as a harmonizer, someone who's concerned about creating balance and contentment in your team, then you might come across as maybe a bit of a weak leader. On the other hand, the opposite of a harmonizer is an innovator. And if you come out like that, then maybe you come out a bit disruptive. You don't care enough about your team. You're always pursuing new goals. So whatever part of your personality is there, there's actually a positive and a negative side to it. And I think what's quite cool is you've actually then got training courses around that to deal with those sorts of aspects. But what I find fascinating is, to me, you know, we've got all sorts of different people who do global mobility. We've got people who've come to it from maybe a tax background or an immigration background or a technology background or a comp or an HR or a cultural training or logistics. You know, if it was an Olympic sport, it would be the decathlon. You know, we've got so many different skills we have to deal with. But typically, cut you open, and you've probably got one core skill where you started, which is, if you like, who you are. You may be, you know, an accountant that does a bit of HR guy, or an HR person who's learned a bit of tax or whatever it is, but you've got one core skill. And that makes the team different, because on your team, you'd likely have got different people. So I suppose my question, I'll ask my question to you, Mel. I'm a bit long-winded about this, but I'll ask my question to you, Mel. If you have a team of people, would you encourage them all to take the test? And how would you use that in terms of analyzing out how you treat different people and the skills to use with different people on the test?
That's a great question. And I would definitely encourage my team to take this test, because I think you're right. People come from mobility from so many different backgrounds, and understanding that, even as a peer, I think, okay, so as a manager, it's great to have this information at your hands. It's great for the individual to have this information at their hands, to have a harmonized team all working for the same purpose, actually understanding each other's type is also really, really powerful. Because I was looking back through my career being in-house, and I would say that I've worked with a lot of, I'm going to call them hobs. I couldn't find out where the sustainer creator came in, but a lot of hobs. And I was thinking how that is on a day-to-day basis, how that reflects, you know, what implications does it have? And I've probably always been an IFCN. And where did them challenges come from? And that's why I think it's so important, for me anyway. I think that managers, they should encourage their teams to take these assessments and then use them as well for, you know, professional development. If somebody in your team has got an inkling, you know, to be, you can see that they're moving from, say, a balancer to a networker. Well, let's use that. Let's see how we can develop you in that way. And, you know, let's talk about it. And what else is out there for you? Do you need to go to more events? Do you need to do this kind of stuff that we're doing today? You know, put yourself out front and center. So yes, I will answer the question. I think that's a great tool for managers.
Well, we will put a number of people who are asking for the link. We are going to share it in a moment or two. We're not going to share it now because we just know that everybody will click on it and do the test. They won't be watching the rest of the show. But I promise you, we will be putting the link out very shortly, so you can then afterwards do the test yourself, and you will get a personalized report. And I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating. But there's a question I want to ask you, Ben. I think I know the answer, but it's an obvious question, but I do want to ask it. We have all these different personality types. Is there a best personality type to succeed in GM?
Yeah.
Yes, Mel, obviously.
I knew exactly us.
Yeah, we're the best.
Not.
We know. I'm outraged.
There is not, just like there's no best personality, there's not the best type. There is just the best fit for the situation and organization, and that's important. So Mel, when you earlier said for professional development and move them there, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to move balances to networks, and quite the opposite may be true in other cases. But where it's really getting interesting is with this awareness you get in the professional development, you can start looking into the alignment between organizational goals, HR goals, GM goals, and eventually personal goals, because that is what matters. If you don't have this goal alignment, you're not going to be really successful, because at the end of the day, different goals, people working towards different goals, you can't satisfy either of them. If you know your type, and if you know your team's type, you have a better understanding of how they approach different tasks, how they approach different different things, and then you can account for that. Now, Brian, there is not the best type, but there is a cluster in terms of what's more like what many people are, and that's HOSP. That's harmonizer, organizer, sustainer, and networker. We call them the strategic harmonizer, and that's a pattern we see. Then again, there's a spread across all different types, and within these HOSP dimensions, there's again a differentiation. And what's important is like, let's not take this result and say, okay, this is what I am, and take it and leave it there. Like, take it somewhere, because I think the tool is really, it's designed for helping you to get into the thinking of your career as a GM professional, the way you are as a professional, where you want to be, and then look into the next steps. I couldn't read the comment if it was meant for me, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah, let's put it up. That's from Bindu. She said, a lot would also depend on the organizational culture and the personality of the leader driving it. I mean, that's interesting. Do you think our personality traits, depending on the organization we're working for, or indeed, do you think they change over time?
Personality.
Yeah. Is this something that's cast in stone, or do we change?
We know that personality traits are mostly stable, but they can gradually change. It just, this applies to the GM type as well. What the comment that just came up, it's basically, if you're working in a particular environment and things are done in a particular way and people are working in a particular way, this all influences you. And then if this is not natural to you, there's some sort of dissonance, and you have to. As human beings, we don't like dissonance. We don't like cognitive dissonance. We don't like emotional dissonance. We have to get rid of this dissonance. This either happens by leaving or by adapting.
Yeah, I mean, interesting question came in from Jacqueline van Haften in the Netherlands. She said, do you also test companies to find out if they are, for example, ready for innovation? I find that, I remember one CEO of a major company saying to me at one point, he said to me, when a good CEO meets a bad culture, the bad culture normally wins. But I don't know how true that is, but I'm just wondering from your perspective, I know you're testing personality traits. Do you test, or can you test as part of this, the personality of the organization?
Yes and no, but it's a more complex thing. There's like, it really is a complex measurement. I don't like the term testing. I prefer the term assessment, because it's like, there's no right or wrong. But what we do test organizations, that is the readiness to prove the return on investment of assignments, like, which came from the value dimension, a big discussion we were always approached, and the value, how to demonstrate value is something that's so important. So we have a ROI readiness score in the making. It's going to drop sometime later in the year, where you answer questions on behalf of your organization. We'll give you a score, total score, and on 5 different dimensions, showing you how ready you are to actually have a proper return on investment of an assignment versus you just have nothing or anything in between.
So we know then what we're saying is there isn't a best personality type as such to succeed in GM. Next question, do you think a GM team is stronger if it has a lot of people who've got the same personality type, or if it is diverse with lots of different personality types? Which works better?
Do you want an academic answer? Because then it would depend.
No, I don't. I want to. Well, actually, no, I'll take the academic answer from you and the practical answer from Mel.
Okay.
Mel, do you want to go through it?
I'll go first. Okay, so I think it's better to have lots of different types. The reason for that is I think that personally, I think we've all got something to learn, and you learn a lot from people. So even if I am the global mobility manager, that doesn't mean with my IFCN that I'm not going to learn off of somebody who is slightly different to me or totally different to me, who is 10 years junior to me. I personally think for me, that is a great way to learn as a person. How that practically works on a day-to-day basis from a global mobility team is, I think that then you've got so many diverse skills, and that's what global mobility needs. It needs a lot of diverse skills. So for me, it's having a mix.
If it makes you feel better.
Perspective, are we better off surrounding ourselves with people who are like us or people who are different?
Well, no. I appreciate the value of diversity. Absolutely, in many things. It may delay decision making at some point, but it's beneficial. But it may, rest assured. So I've been looking at the data of just this month. So we're looking at like slightly below 100 responses. There was not one single identical type. I mean, there was different, like same letters, but there was not a single response that were answering exactly the same on all the spots. So although we are there's clusters and we are alike, we still, even within the similarity, there's differences. And again, if you have like larger differences approaches, that is only really beneficial to reflect. However, we don't need diversity for the sake of diversity. We need to embrace this diversity. We need to really be aware of what it means and then really integrate it into our daily approaches.
Yeah, and Merrily is putting a similar comment up there. She says, agree, definitely all different types. And this is also from my most great experiences. Yeah, I mean, I suppose we all believe, I think we all believe anyway, that diversity is a good thing. And if diversity is a good thing, then diversity in personality is just another aspect of diversity, if you look at it as simply as that. But that then raises the question, how do you use that diversity of personality to best effect? So Imelda, if you were running a mobility team and you knew you had different sorts of people in terms of personality traits, how would you then approach those different personalities in terms of the roles and the things you ask them to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, the person has to be receptive to, or the team have to be receptive to it. I think, to make sure that the team themselves are not seeing that one person, let's say, who is a networker, is wants to be out more within the organization, who wants to be networking, who maybe wants to be out externally networking, that making sure that the people that are the balancers in the team are aware, first of all. So first of all, making sure that everybody's aware of each other's type. And then if your program allows, and this is the beauty of the evolution of mobility in itself, if your program allows that you can have people that are, more comfortable in the area of doing the operational, getting stuck into, cost estimates or process or redeveloping processes, that kind of stuff, and you've got somebody who's a bit more front facing, then you can switch your team up maybe slightly. I mean, I appreciate not all teams are set up like that, and it is quite rigid. However, why not use it for that kind of way of evolution within your own mobility program? So I think for me, it's probably two short things. It's one, making sure that the team are harmonized and they all sort of understand each other's, and then use it to actually their advantages and their skills, but also using it as a development for the people that are maybe on the cusp of moving from, creator to sustainer, and helping them kind of get there and push them in there or out of their comfort zones, if you like, and get them into that next, that next box, if they're comfortable.
Yeah, I still get that. I mean, let's just take a simple example. You're putting out your program to RFP, so you're looking for a new provider in one field or the other. Mm-hmm. If you fill the team that is doing the interview, the panel for the RFP, with people who are harmonizers, then they're probably more likely to say, you know what, we're very happy with our provider. They're not 100%, they're at a 7 or something, but you know, they're okay. Let's not go through the change. And you'll probably never change. Whereas if you fill the RFP panel with people who are innovators, say, oh, this is really exciting, you know, they're only a 7 and these people are promising to be a 15 or something, you know, then, you know, you will always change, and maybe you'll change too often and too detrimental. So maybe there's some sense, even at something as basic as during the RFP process, is thinking not just about the RFP questions, which I think, you know, we all drive ourselves mad over, but actually think about balancing the panel, not just from, you know, whether you've got somebody from this region or that region, but the personalities that you've got on board. I mean, I don't know whether people do that, but maybe it's a thought.
I think that's a great idea, Brian. And I think that's definitely something that I would think about, you know, in the future, making sure that, again, that's about giving people opportunities in your team, isn't it? To bring all levels, all experience, because we're all working for the greater program of mobility. But actually, that allows you to learn off of each other, which was the very first thing that I said about using it also to learn. We're all here to learn on a daily basis. So I think that sounds like a great plan to me.
Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the show. So let's post on LinkedIn and indeed on screen here the link so that people can take the Navigator test. And Ben, just tell us a bit about it. So when people take this test, just describe, we've only got a few minutes left, but just describe the sort of questions they're going to be answering and the actual process of doing the test, the question.
So it's very simple. Like you get a number of questions in a random order, and we want you to answer as spontaneously as possible. There is no right or wrong. It's just read it, click what you think is best, and when you're done, you will get a personalized report with all your personal details in your inbox to get an understanding of your particular type, some explanations, and that's it basically. Now, if you find this valuable and interesting, that's the cliffhanger here. Do reach out. Like, we've got a lot more on offer to work with you, to use this as a professional development tool for you as an individual, to work with you as a global mobility team, to take it from there and then really get these organizational goals in line with the GM and the personal goals. Get your strength that you certainly have best applied in the organization. Tackle these, use the skills you have to tackle the problems, and get from the initial start of this awareness into the actual doing an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I found it a very useful test. That's why I decided to put it on the show. And so you get something like a 20-page report, which is fascinating. I know it's evolving over time. I'm sure there'll be a version 3.0 at some point. But in terms of something that is thought-provoking, it really is quite awesome. And it really does get you thinking. And I really hope as many people as possible do take that test. It's completely free, by the way, I should have said that. And you get the results within seconds. And it'll also be interesting if you're watching this show either on catch up or live, once you've done the test, do post in the comments. Love to know what you thought about the test, and indeed anything else you want to share. We're getting towards the end of the hour, so I'm just going to bring back our backstage guests. We've got Raj from Fragaman, we've got Beth from Benevo, and of course we've got our wonderful producer Tally. So it's been an amazing discussion, really helpful. We are actually back next week when I'm so excited. We've got Global Mobility at Microsoft, and that's, in fact, it's a two-part series, but next week, we're going to be talking about their interns and what they call their guests, the people who are not actually employees, but they are still moving around. It's going to be a fascinating discussion. I hope everybody has enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed hosting the show today. As I said, we're back next week. Thank you so much to Ben Barder, Professor of Global Mobility, to Imelda Keane, and of course to Raj Knight from Fragaman, to Beth from Benevo, and of course to our wonderful producer, the one and only Tally Gorin. That's the end of the show, guys. We are back this time next week. Take care, everybody. Have a good week. And if you're in Florida, stay safe. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.